What's up people, it's JD here from GadgetsBoy, and today we're going to take a look at the Huawei Mate 10 Pro in review. So where do you think we should do this video today?
I mean, it's up to you. What do you think?
I mean, it's a nice day, so I think we should maybe take it outside.
So, JD, tell me all about the Huawei Mate 10 Pro's design. That was a mouthful. Jeez.
It doesn't matter, it is a mouthful. But I love the look of this phone. The finish is beautiful. It's got nice curved edges. You got the fingerprint scanner on the back, dual lenses. You got the flash on one side, and then the AF autofocus, the laser autofocus, also on the other side. So it's nice and symmetrical. I think overall it's a beautiful finish, very mirrored, very sleek, very modern looking. I think Huawei have done a really nice job of designing this phone. It's gonna grab attention. People have actually stopped me in the street, and when I've been on my phone said, you know, what is that you're using? And so yeah, I think this phone makes a really good first impression on the look front.
Also, most people say some phones look horrible in a case, and it just kills the design. So what do you think about this and the casing and stuff like that?
On front, in terms of the case, one of the things I really love actually, Huawei include a nice clear plastic case on the back that slips on the back, and it comes in the box. And when you put that on, even then, you know, the profile of the phone doesn't change that much. And it adds for grip. It means you don't get as many scratches on it. It protects the phone when you drop it, because I do drop my phones. Tommy's always criticizing me for dropping my phones, but I do. So I love the fact that they include that in the box. You don't have to go out and buy a third-party case. So I think, yeah, Huawei have done a great job with that as well, and it's nice and considerate. You've got a really good open box there, keeping the camera very much available. And again, you've got the fingerprint sensor, the hole's cut out for you. So yeah. Talk
to me about the ports. Do we have 3.5mm airphone jack? I know you love your IR blaster, things like that. So tell me about what else have you got there.
One of the things that, again, this is probably ridiculous, but since the Galaxy S5, no one else has made a phone with an IR blaster until now. Huawei have included one, so now I can control my TV, my DVD, my Skybox. All of those things I can control from my phone, and I think it's one of those features that's very overlooked these days, but I think it's still really nice to be able to do that all from your one device. Also, you have a USB-C port, which is pretty much standard now. I don't think anyone's going to make a phone with micro USB. That would be ridiculous in this day and age. On the rear, you've got a speaker for the bass, and on the top, you've got another speaker here. One of the things I would say is a bit of a negative is when I'm using the phone and holding it or watching videos, I do find myself covering up the speaker, and the audio goes from pretty decent to non-existent. So that is maybe a slight design issue. I would prefer the stereo front-facing speakers as some manufacturers have gone for. So I would say that's a little bit of a negative, but it is waterproof. So you have the IP67 rating on the Mate 10 Pro. IP67 is good enough for splash and dust resistance, so that's another good choice from Huawei.
Headphone port.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of manufacturers are moving away from headphone ports. I'm a bit disappointed that Huawei have also gone in that direction. So you've got to use everything via the USB-C, or you've got Bluetooth. I mean, we have been getting sent some good Bluetooth headsets, so not such a big issue, but then Tommy and I both carry around a wired headset and a Bluetooth headset, because if your battery dies and you've got no audio, so that's useless. But I really don't like the fact that I have to either get a dongle that I can charge and connect my audio into, or I just have to choose audio or charging. So there's been a few times when I've been stuck, when I need to charge my phone, I've had to stop watching my content, charge up my battery, but it does have very, very quick Huawei supercharge. So I can get from about 10% to 80-90% in about 20 minutes, which is impressive.
Talking about design, talk to us about this. So the Mate 10 Pro is a beautifully designed smartphone. It looks amazing, but what about the performance? Talk to me about that, JD.
So it comes with 128GB inbuilt storage, which is amazing. You get about 120 of them because obviously the rest is taken up by some bloatware. So yeah, bloatware is probably a thing that some people complain about. It has the Huawei Emotion UI built into it, which I know some people don't like, but I think it's kind of cool. It's a unique take on the whole Android approach. It's Android 8 built into it, but it does have its own approaches to user interface. So you get the weird little animations for scrolling, and you also get some interesting Huawei apps built into it. So you got like their torch app, their calculator app, some other things that, you know, you only get on a Huawei phone. I don't use them typically, and also sometimes when I want to find really standard features, it can be a bit complicated to find them. So I find maybe that could cut down or maybe get rid of them entirely would be nice. And then you've also got the Google apps built onto it. So that's why, like I said, it comes with 128 gigabyte storage, but some of that is taken out by some of the baked in software that I could do without, but for me it's not a big deal because you've got so much built-in storage.
For the techies out there, talk to me about what we've got on paper. You know, your RAM, processor. Okay. We're a bit obsessed with that.
For those of you who love to know your specs, it comes with 6 gigabyte RAM, which is pretty standard for today. It does a great job. You've also got the Kirin 970, the latest Huawei processor chipset in there. And I think that works quite well. Like I said, there's been no lag from this phone. It's super fast to operate. I haven't had any issues with it locking off or freezing up. So I'd say in terms of performance, this phone is as fast as I'd need it to be, and I've had no issues with any kind of lag. So
at the launch event, they told us about AI, and what I really like about AI in this smartphone is how Huawei are using it in terms of keeping the phone longevity. Talk us more about that. How's that been for you?
Well, at the launch event, they made this huge deal about their whole AI, as Tommy said. You know, that whole neural interface, artificial intelligence thing. And while it sounded really cool and they made a huge big deal out of it, it's hard to see what it actually gives you. I think the only place where it's quite visible is when you're using the camera app. And the camera can kind of dictate, it can detect between night scenes, low light scenes, daytime. If you're taking a shot of groups or taking a portrait shot, it can see what you're actually doing. So the camera can tell, you know, if you're looking at food even, it can detect that you can see food on the camera, and it will use that to enhance the colors, the detail of the shot. So it's a smart way of implementing it, but I would like to see, I mean, given the amount of power that they said it can deliver, I'd like to see some more visible ways of that technology being used.
Another thing about the AI is they said something about over time, your phone's going to feel just as brand new out of the box, which is great for people who sign up for 24 months contracts and agreement out there, you know, for phones. This is one of the reasons why we take ages to review our phones on this channel. You have to
live with it. I think the whole point of why we do our reviews, you know, we'll do our first impressions quite early on, but I think a review, you have to live with the phone. And I've had this since launch, so I've had it for about 45, 50 days now, maybe 60 even. And I've had to use this phone as my daily driver. I've chosen to use this phone as my daily driver because the performance I'm getting from it is quite smart. And the battery and all of that, you know, the phone's performance hasn't dipped at all. And I think that's because Huawei said, you know, it uses that intelligence and that AI to keep the performance as fresh as it was when you open the box. You know, when you first use that phone, it doesn't get bad over time, which some people have criticized Android phones over iPhones before. You know, over time when you update, you can put new apps on, it does tend to wear on the processors.
So if the Huawei Mate 10 Pro was to be an athlete, who would you say it is?
If this phone was an athlete, I'd probably say it's more of a Mo Farah. You know, this is a long distance phone. This is something that, you know, I get 4,000 milliamp hour battery. It lasts me a day and a half, sometimes 2 if I'm not too hard on it. But yeah, I'd say this is a phone that, like I said, I've chosen this as my daily driver because I absolutely love it. So this is a long distance phone. If you're going to be tied into a 24-month, 18-month contract, this is definitely the kind of phone I'd be looking at.
I know we're talking about design already, but if this was a model, who would you say it is?
It was stupid. If it was a model, God, models aren't like they used to be though, man.
Male or female? Come on.
I'd say it's kind of a David Gandhi. That's what I'd say. It's classy, very smartly put together, nice trim, dark and handsome. That's what I'd say. David Gandhi.
Strong. Okay, let's move along. Talk to me about the camera.
The best bit. So yeah, the Huawei Mate 10 Pro has dual 12 megapixel and 20 megapixel cameras on the back, both f1.6 apertures, so they're very good in low light. But I think my favorite thing for this camera is it picks up a lot of detail. The colors are beautiful, nice and vivid. Some people say they're slightly over-processed. I think they look great and perfect for Instagram. And yeah, on the front-facing side, we've got an 8 megapixel camera, which is all right. I'd say it's a bit too mushy in low light especially. The blur on the background looks over-processed, so the front-facing camera is not so great, but I absolutely love the camera combo on the Mate 10 Pro. I'd say in terms of where it places with the competition, This is probably my favorite, along with the Pixel 2 XL. About that. In terms of detail, I think the Mate 10 Pro is amazing. We've done shots, shared them on Instagram, told people to guess the camera, and everyone thinks that some of the shots we've got off this are from a DSLR, so that's really impressive. It means I get to leave my compact camera at home. You know, I don't have to take anything extra out with me. I've just got this and, you know, my mirrorless or a DSLR with me. So that's really nice. In terms of dynamic range, when you've got really contrasty scenes, you can tap the exposure, so you can make it adjusted. And I think also with the monochrome version, the monochrome sensor on this, you've got extra detail in the highlights and the shadows. So yeah, Mate 10 Pro, really good in terms of detail and color.
It's got HDR mode as well.
It does have an HDR mode, and also I forgot to mention the 12 megapixel lens has optical image stabilization built into it. So again, in terms of low light, if you can keep your hand steady, that will help you even more, and you'll get more detail, less noise in low light situations. As for video, this phone will give you 4K, up to 4K resolution video and slow-mo video in HD. So that's really nice for your kind of dramatic effects, and it's great for social media. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the screen resolution isn't quite 2K. They call it FHD Plus, which is just below, and it does have an 18:9 ratio. As you can see, it's all screen, which is nice, but not every piece of content is going to be made optimized for that. But it does mean you've got a bit of room around the edges to hold it. But yeah, I think the screen looks beautiful, especially when you're watching videos, so that's a good job. So if I had to say who is this phone for, I'd say it's for people who want something a bit different. You know, they're not tied into Samsung, they're not too loyal to Apple, they want to try something unique, and they want a great camera and a great battery performance. Like I said, you've got dual 12 megapixel and 20 megapixel sensors on here, 4,000 milliamp hour battery, so it does last you a full day and a half, up to 2 if you're not like me and you're not constantly on Instagram. So yeah, I think it's a beautifully designed phone overall and great value for money. That's it from me and the Huawei Mate 10 Pro. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, put them in the comment section below. But in the meantime, subscribe and tell a friend.